look, we got Kendrick Perkins back with us. Welcome back, my friend. And we got to talk about the people watching as we're going through all of this. Not just all you, but NBA players, too. They're just like us, as the expression goes, enjoying all the money going around. Mr. Buddy Hield. Look, he was close to being a Laker. So, hey, let's talk about the Lakers, right? By the way, Matt, you two were watching this going, this is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money going out there. I'm happy for these guys.
Absolutely. I do want to talk about the Lakers. As we know, they did not end up trading for Buddy Hield. So, Ramona, what is the latest on the Lakers' efforts to fill out that roster?
Well, first they have to keep their own guys. And their own guys are Alex Caruso, Talen Horton-Tucker, and Dennis Schroeder. I don't know that they're going to do that. It gets very expensive to keep all of your own guys. Then there's also the issue of the fit with Dennis Schroeder. Alex Caruso is a guy, I don't even want to say this because I know we're in Los Angeles and people are going to get upset. Like, I mean, if you're a Laker fan, it looks like you need to prepare yourself to lose Alex Caruso. He has.
Are you speaking to Laker fans or LeBron James? Because he's very attached to Alex Caruso also.
Look, at some point, there's a number, right? And it reminds me a little of when Derek Fisher got paid when he weren't on the team back then, but you know what I'm talking about. He essentially, he had a great run. People loved him, and then somebody threw a lot of money at him. And at some point, there gets to be a number that you don't cross where the Lakers have to say, okay, can we go 10, 12, 13, 14 million for Alex Caruso? If he's got offers at the full mid-level, which is what my understanding is, the Lakers can trump any offer. He's their own free agent. They can pay him whatever they want. And they probably should do something because you lose him for nothing. And you still have to fill out that roster. So let's see what happens if he leaves outright or if they work out some kind of sign-in trade. But right now, it's not looking good.
And guess what? They paid guys who were part of the championship in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Kyle Kuzma, and they had salary slots that allowed them to go after Russell Westbrook. And so there's an added benefit to paying one of your own guys, because if you have to, any reason, need maneuverability moving forward to go after someone who suddenly ends up on the market, it allows you to do so. But it's a tough one for Alex in particular, because he is indebted to the Lakers organization. He recognizes he came up with this team. But if you look at their roster depth, ideally he's like your 6th or 7th best player. The Lakers still have some more work to do before they get drilled down to making the offer for the 6th or 7th best player. The way offers are going around the league, it might not be sticking around for that long from another team. Another team might say, hey, Alex, here's a deal. It's on the table for 60 minutes. Give us an answer or it's gone. Then Alex can go to the Lakers, hey, I got this. And the Lakers say, we're not ready to deal with that yet. And it could come down to just something like that, a timing issue.
Well, also, if you're trying to work out a sign and trade, that other team has to be interested in that.
Yeah, why do they want to help the Lakers?
Right, and not only help the Lakers, but give up some assets, right? If you're having a sign and trade, we're just seeing this now as we work out the details of the Kyle Lowry trade, and that starts to get reported. You're giving stuff up, and sometimes you're giving stuff up because you want to make salary fit. But if you don't have to, sometimes you don't want to.
Can we explain this, though, like the sign-in trade with Kyle Lowry, okay? So at the trade deadline, Kyle Lowry a lot of teams wanted Kyle Lowry. Philly wanted him, Miami wanted him, Lakers wanted him. And Masai Ujiri decided to hold on to him because he didn't get the deal he was looking for. The Lakers didn't put Talen Horton-Tucker in the deal. Miami wouldn't put Precious Achiuwa in the deal at the time, or Duncan Robinson. There were reasons why there was nothing that incentivized Toronto to trade him at that point. And Masai's calculation was essentially, any of these teams that want to sign him as a free agent need the Raptors to do it. They don't have the cap space to make a $30 million offer. So they need us. So why don't we just wait until they need us and we can get something for him? And they're going to get a good young player. Precious Achiuwa is a good young player. Goran Dragic is a good player. Now, the details of that are still being worked out. So let's see who actually ends up in this deal and whether it expands to a 3-team. But when you have a free agent that's you can get something for him. You don't want to lose him for nothing when you have unrestricted free agents. So Dennis Schroeder, unrestricted free agent. Alex Caruso, unrestricted free agent. But the Lakers can still get something for both of those players if the other team wants to do that.
Wants to do that. By the way, I appreciate that you called Goran Dragic young.
Me too.
For those of us who are sitting up here. When you're on a team that is strapped the way the Lakers are in terms of they can only make the moves that they can make, when you lose a guy who is a little bit seen as a heart and soul guy like Alex Caruso, what does that do to the roster? But then again, you've got Russell Westbrook coming in. Talk about a heart and soul guy on every team he's been on.
Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow. I mean, he's a fan favorite out here. Several endorsements. He's really capitalized on being a Los Angeles Lakers. He has the hearts of these fans. But one thing I will say, and I want to say maybe the last 3 years, the Lakers front office has prove a lot of us wrong. They've had maybe 2, 3, 4 guys under contract. Normally at this point, sometimes the point is just 2 guys, and they've always seemed to build it. And before we doubted that front office until they showed us, and they've definitely showed us. So I still have faith. We really don't know what they're going to do and what their options really are because they're not too many. But it's always a safe security blanket to know that you have LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and now Russell Westbrook and Marc Gasol under contract right now. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I have confidence that they're going to figure something out. It may not be any shocking, staggering moves, but they're going to be able to fill that roster out.
You know, and one name to watch, Rachel, as we go forward here, they're going to look, obviously you're looking at veteran minimum guys, you know, guys who are going to sign for the vet minimum. Watch Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard, let him go.
Well, so, okay, I want to get to Perk here, guys. So Perk, the big name coming in the trade deadline was Andre Drummond. They promised him a starting lineup spot. What do you think his future is with the Lakers? What do you want it to be, Perk?
Well, I don't think he fits well with the Lakers, to be honest. But I think Andre Drummond has value around the league. And I'm glad you brought him up because the 2 names that I was looking at on that list for us with the Lakers being able to re-sign players of their own was Andre Drummond and Dennis Schroeder, right? Maybe you could work out a sign and trade deal to get those guys out of there and bring back some pieces that could fit around LeBron, Russ, and Anthony Davis. I just don't see Andre Drummond fitting alongside Anthony Davis. It just didn't look good with LeBron either. And we all know that Dennis Schroeder is not a guy that's going to want to come in off the bench and be behind Russell Westbrook. He believes that he's a starting point guard in this league. Whether we believe it or not, he believes that. And you look at a guy like Wesley Matthews, you possibly could bring him back at a vet minimum. You know what I mean? We already know how they feel about Jared Dudley, right? Jared Dudley is a guy that's not going to be a guy that gets minutes, but when we talk about a guy that's a heart and soul of a team, Jared Dudley is that guy. This is why he's on the team. Guys gravitate towards him. He's a glue guy that's in that locker room.
Absolutely. And look, Jared Dudley is a guy who was with the Nets and then went on to say, hey, I'd like to play with you, LeBron James. And there you go. But speaking of the Nets, we have another guy leaving the Nets. Jeff Green next year has decided to go to the Denver Nuggets. A 2-year deal. $10 million. The Nets do still have their big 3. Malika Andrews reporting this next season.
It's about time.
Right? Okay, so given that the Nets will not have Jeff Green anymore, but they do have those other big 3 guys we've mentioned just a couple hundred million times, Kevin Durant, James Harden, these 2 clubs we're discussing in this segment, whether it's the Nets or the Lakers, with their big 3 of LeBron, AD, and now Russell Westbrook. Perk, who do you think has the more formidable big 3?
You know what? I got to give the edge to the Los Angeles Lakers. And here's why. Because they have Anthony Davis. I think he's the deciding factor between why I would go with the Los Angeles Lakers. We're talking about a guy that, when healthy, he dominates both ends of the floor. When you look at the Brooklyn Nets, we're talking about a team that's just giving you all offense and Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. But when you look at the Lakers, all right, yes, you have LeBron James, and yes, you have Russell Westbrook, but Anthony Davis is different. Anthony Davis is a guy, when he's on his best game, that could give you 40 points, 18 rebounds, and he could give you 5 or 6 blocks along with 4 steals. So his impact on the game on the defensive side of things which is why I lean more towards the Los Angeles Lakers.
I'm a Laker fan at heart, but I'm going to have to disagree with you. I'm leaning more towards the Brooklyn Nets. 1, because of age, and then 2, because their 3 stars shoot the ball with great accuracy. And normally James Harden is very durable, you know, so his injury this year hopefully was a fluke. Hopefully he'll be back to his normal stuff. You know, Kyrie's been in and out, but most of the time you can count on Kyrie. Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant. He's proven who he is time and time again. But this team is a little bit younger, and they can shoot the ball. So when they're trying to find pieces, it's just more pieces that are, I think, are going to be more suitable and easier to find than the Lakers need. A lot of, you know, shooting to help stretch this floor out. And it's a little bit harder to find guys that you can find guys that can shoot, but can they give you anything on that other end as far as the defensive accountability comes? So there's a lot of shooters on the market still that are, you know, coming in for the vet minimum, but can they give it to you on both sides? I think the Brooklyn Nets have a lot more firepower in their big 3 than the Lakers do, you know, with an aging Lakers big 3.
Yeah, man.